Well, today the Greens did a real made-for-TV stunt, walking out of Parliament in protest, of course, at the slaughter at Israel actually defending itself, daring to defend itself against the Hamas terrorists who started this war.
And Labour has shown itself to be heartless, gutless cowards. You are watching the massacre of thousands of Palestinians by Israel, and you are not condemning Israel. You refuse to call for an immediate ceasefire. Well, we are not going to sit here and watch you pat yourselves on the back for doing nothing. Weasel words are not going to stop war crimes. Today, we bring the people's protest into Parliament. Free, free Palestine!
Thank you.
Such radical chic, scarf and all, Palestinian scarf. That was actually the Pakistan-born Marine Faruqi, a real race baiter. And out they all walked then in a stunt that every Jew hater in the country would applaud. But two things about that. The first is this: Faruqi, like I say, born in Pakistan. Why has she not also walked out of Parliament when Muslims slaughtered hundreds of thousands of other Muslims in Syria and Yemen, Libya and Afghanistan? No walkout. So apparently, is it killing Muslims only a sin when Jews do it in response to the deadliest attack on them in a single day since the Holocaust? Oh, then the protests. And why hasn't this Faruqi this week walked out of Parliament over Pakistan, her home country, last week expelling 1.7 million Muslims, Afghan refugees? No, didn't do that. But the hypocrisy is one thing. The other is this: what does Faruqi, what do the rest of the Greens mean when they shout "Free Palestine"? In fact, Greens leader Adam Bandt has tweeted in support of a Free Palestine protest with a red map of Israel and the Palestinian territories all in one colour. There's no separate state of Israel, which is exactly what Hamas does want to. No Israel. Joining me is Jeremy Leibler, President of the Zionist Federation of Australia. Jeremy Leibler, thank you for joining me. You're going to get every TV station going to tonight play the clip of Marine Faruqi yelling "Free, free Palestine," leading the Greens of a walkout of the Senate. What do you make of that stunt?
Well, it's not a surprise, unfortunately, Andrew. I think for the first time, certainly in my living memory, we have a political party in Australia that is openly hostile to the Jewish community, but frankly, openly hostile to most decent Australians who are able to distinguish between a barbaric terrorist organisation and those who are seeking to defend themselves. The Greens don't seem capable of doing so.
Well, when they say "Free, free Palestine," I wonder what they mean. Now, I've just shown the tweet that Adam Bandt, the Greens leader, put out, calling for people to support a rally for Free Palestine, showing a map suggesting that when he says "Free Palestine," there is no Israel. It's all one colour, I presume, and includes the West Bank. I presume that means a Palestine without Israel. How do you interpret that?
Well, I think what we've seen since the 7th of October, when Hamas conducted a terrorist attack that killed the highest number of Jews in any one day since the Holocaust, what we've seen is the Greens show their true colours. So it will tell you on their website that they support a two-state solution, but their actions actually demonstrate something very differently. And this chant, which is yelled at rallies in Melbourne and Sydney throughout Australia, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, where the Greens themselves, Adam Bandt, has stood there listening to these chants. Well, I'm not sure if he's looked at a map, but the sea is the Mediterranean, and we're talking about the Jordan River. That is Israel. And so that chant is a call for the destruction of Israel and the annihilation of all Jewish people in it. And if perhaps before the 7th of October we thought that was just rhetoric, well, we saw what Hamas will do if given the opportunity on the 7th of October.
But how reckless is it for the Greens to actually publicise a map showing no Israel that I can see? Free Palestine looks all Palestinian, no Jews.
Well, it's actually more than reckless. I think there is a legitimate argument here that they are complicit in the incitement to violence. These rallies where the Greens have attended have had Hamas flags flown at them, a proscribed terrorist organisation. They've had Hezbollah flags, also a proscribed terrorist organisation. At many of these rallies, there are chants of gas the Jews and anti-Semitic caricatures, and silence is complicity. And what's interesting is that Adam Bandt, after I wrote to him, suddenly the tweet disappeared. Have I heard from him? No. Has he issued an apology? No. He issued a new tweet that said, I'm speaking at a peace rally or promoting a peace rally. Well, there's nothing peaceful about these rallies, nothing at all.
You wonder who is listening to these messages coming out of Canberra. Now, we have already read about the preacher in a Dawah centre, an Islamic centre in southwest Sydney, calling for jihad. He's being investigated. What I've shown tonight is another preacher at the same centre citing a passage of the sacred hadith calling on Jews to be killed. That's what the passage says. He repeats it. Here is that preacher.
To the invading Jews we say, by Allah, the day you will be kicked out of Palestine is coming. A day when the stones and the trees will speak and say, "O Muslim, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him."
That guy previously identified himself as a supporter of the Islamic State. What do you make of that passage he's quoting? What are we supposed to take from that?
Well, there is a direct link between that sort of rhetoric and the attacks that took place on the 7th of October. And I think this is a reminder for all of us that we have a problem, I think, here in this country, and it's absolutely not all of the Muslim community. Most Muslims are peace-loving, but we have a problem in parts of the community. The mere fact that within weeks of the 7th of October, we can hear this sort of rhetoric, but within days of the 7th of October, before Israel was responding, they were chanting "gas the Jews" on the streets, demonstrate that, like we've seen throughout history, many of these things start with anti-Semitism, start with the Jews, but they never ever end with the Jews. And I think that's why most Australians have taken note and understand that as challenging, as difficult, as horrific any civilian casualties are of war, Israel has no choice now but to eliminate Hamas, because just like ISIS, there is no negotiating with these groups. No one called for negotiations with the Nazis. No one called for negotiations with ISIS, and we cannot negotiate with Hamas. They need to be eradicated.
Look, these are dark days, Jeremy Leibler. My sympathy to the Jewish community in particular. But thank you so much for coming in on the show.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.